What is going on, everyone? I'm going to give it a couple of seconds just to make sure that everyone that is part of the Perks channel, right, is able to see the live stream, and then we can kind of get started. For those that are tuning in for the first time, again, I host a live stream twice a month or every other week, right? Completely about a completely different topic. This Perks channel, right, or benefit is really just for beginners. It's for me to be able to work with you a little bit on a closer basis. If you're part of Learn Plan Profit, you're able to work with me already on a closer basis. So this would really just be if you benefit from the very specific topics. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's like $3 a month or something like that, or 3 to 5. I'm not too sure what YouTube charges. But overall, I just want to make sure that twice a month I dedicate a little bit more time, give you guys more concepts on the series of different platforms or indicators or series of best practices that I implement on a daily basis when it comes down to trading. So I hope it's something that you guys can enjoy. So if you're tuning in right now, can you do me the biggest favor and just on the little live chat just say that you're here or welcome or hello, something that gives me some form of indication that we are live, that we are good to go, and all that good stuff. So it looks like we do have a couple of people watching right now. So if you guys can do me the biggest favor, can you guys just comment letting me know that you are here, and then I'd be more than happy to start from there. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. All right, here we go. Sounds good. So, all right, I'm going to start sharing my screen, just like many of you guys know. If you guys didn't watch this one, I actually did a let me make this a little bit smaller. Did a boot camp 2 weeks ago for TD Ameritrade. So, we've done TD Ameritrade setup videos. This was a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown, kind of rundown, answer any questions that you guys had about the platform, the brokerage, why I see value in it, to see if it would be something that you guys see value in. Altogether, I hope that you guys know that just because I use something or because I do something, in no way does that mean that you have to do it as well for you to succeed. There's so many different routes that you can take to still have the same end goal, right? Which is being able to consistently grow your account on a consistent basis and not just from time to time. So who's excited for this overall week of trading? New week, new opportunities, right? We begin to be able to implement everything that we have learned. If you've had dedicated time over the weekend, I was getting a couple messages on Instagram of people catching up on the Learn Plan Profit course, reviewing the material, and we have a couple people that are going to start paper trading and doing that simulation trading this upcoming week. So I think that's a huge milestone, a huge accomplishment, and now we really begin to put it to the test, right, where you begin to practice everything that you learned. So please feel free to, this is the moment that I want you to ask questions. This is the whole point of this Perks channel. It's for me to work with a much smaller group of people. So at any time, I'm going to, first I want to ask you, so for those that are tuning in, so we got Jay Fizzle, we got Ivan, and we have a couple other people that aren't really engaging as of right now. So I am seeing the live now. Perfect. I wanted to ask you guys, what are your biggest struggles with identifying reversals? I'm just speaking based off of my experience. When I first got started, a very difficult, just like obstacle for me to overcome was the difference from a pullback and the difference from a break of pattern. So do you guys know the very basics of how to identify the difference of a pullback and the difference of a overall break of pattern? And why is that important, right? So let me explain to you kind of what I think this is a perfect example, right? What is a pullback? Well, as something is trending up, right? It's not going to just shoot up, right? It's not going to just shoot up. It's not going to go from $200 to $300. At least that's not normally what happens. Obviously, if there's news that comes out and that's a direct catalyst that drives the price up, then of course, right? It makes sense. But altogether, when something is consistently showing signs of an uptrend, it has this pattern, it has this flow of the way that it moves, right? So it pushes up, pushes up, pushes up, it becomes a little bit overextended, it begins to consolidate, no longer make higher highs, it breaks below the EMA line, and then it pulls back, right? It bounces normally either off of the EMA line or, in this case, the VWAP indicator, some form of pattern, some form of indicator, and then, continues to push up, makes higher highs, and then pulls back. It doesn't go as low as it did before. So there's this upward staircase pattern, but there's this flow, right? This way that it, pushes up, pulls back, pushes up, pulls back. The pullback means that, it stays true to the pattern that we identified before, meaning that it doesn't make lower lows, that it doesn't continuously or continue to sell off. So I think that's the biggest way to differentiate it, is like if something is showing signs of a consistent uptrend, then when it pulls back, it should find a support and then continue to push up. The difference from that and a overall break of pattern, right? So when it's actually getting rejected is when it pulls back, it tries to push up, gets rejected again, and then actually breaks that support that it supports. Patterns tend to repeat themselves, and supports become supports when they're confirmed. And that's the biggest thing, is like some people are always so focused on, and again, I'm not saying some people as in that's never been me. I do this all the time. Sometimes I get a little bit too into the buying the dip, right? And sometimes it works in my favor where, I can get in for a good deal and then I can average up and then sell for a profit. Sometimes, if I don't wait for confirmation, right, and it sells off, I buy, it pulls back, it breaks its pattern, I'm going to have to cut losses, right? Because that previous support, where it bounced at before this VWAP, it no longer is a valid support because it broke it. So a support is only valid when it confirms that specific support. So I think confirmation is key. If you're someone that's struggling to continuously stay green, if you're someone that's struggling to, not be able to buy something and then sell it for a profit because you're always trying to buy the dip, then this might be an approach of something that you might want to test out. Again, everything that we are talking about, everything that we're learning, I think practice makes perfect, especially if you're paper trading or simulation trading, then I think that's ideal, right? Practice everything that you learn. See what it's like to, instead of taking a position right away as something sells off, give it more time for it to consolidate, right? The 3 stages of a reversal that we just talked about on YouTube: rejection, consolidation, and then when it consolidates and then it confirms higher highs, then again, confirmation, right? So many times when I think that there's a reversal, I get in and the reverse, and it reverses. Okay, so are you saying that it normally doesn't go according to your plan? So let's say that you saw it bounce off the middle VWAP here, and then it pushed up, pulled back, pushed up, pulled back. You see that it's here based off previous patterns. It makes sense on why it can bounce here, right? So you get in, but then it just continues to sell off, right? Is that what you're saying? I think the easiest way, right? A very simple habit that you can get into doing is wait for confirmation. The best example that I can give you is, how many times have you taken a trade where you get in and get out and you just a perfect example would be something like this, right? So as something is selling off, right? Something is selling off, okay, it sells off, you're patient, you wait for your proper entry, you wait for it to break above the EMA line, for it to pull back, bounce off the EMA line and make higher highs. Once you get that confirmation of an uptrend and you see the margin of profit is worth it, right? And it's uptrending and you take part of this action, that's like the best part. This is like when all the action is happening. So just ask yourself, do you want to be in a position, think about, if you've been trading for a long enough period of time, you've probably been able to experience these different type of scenarios, right? So when you try to buy the dip and you're kind of anxious, right? Because you buy and it's selling off and then it just continues to sell off. It's just roller coaster of emotions of it trying to push up, pull back, push up, but it's because you didn't wait for confirmation. But if you're simply patient, and it's a very simple best practice, you wait for confirmation and you wait for higher highs. So you take part of this, and because you're taking part of it and it's still staying true to its pattern, all it's doing is pulling back, bouncing, pulling back, bouncing. So it's staying true to this overall uptrend. And then once it gets to that middle VWAP or wherever it is that you identify it to be a little bit on the overbought side based off of the RSI or the MACD, you lock in profits. And that was such an efficient trade because you took part, you waited for confirmation, and you took part when all the action was happening, meaning that it was actively uptrending. Again, you are here to grow your account. So you want to trade patterns that are showing signs of growth. The same thing goes with swing trading, right? If something is showing signs of it being, aggressively oversold, it's consolidating, but there's no confirmation, then guess what? You can simply give it more time, wait for it to identify its overall, uptrend confirmation. And then once it does, as long as the margin of profit is worth it, you can give it time to slowly begin to add more to your position size when the action is happening. Again, it's a very simple best practices, and I can't stress this enough. Very simple best practices and habits that you implement into your trading that can go a long way. Risk management, confirmation, locking in profits, learning from your mistakes. These are a series of things that, if you really dedicate time to focus on, you can do extremely well. And it's not, it all comes down to, how much it is that you're trading with and all that stuff, right? So you might not think that you're doing very well, maybe because you're trading with $1,000 and you're growing your account 1 or 2%, but trust me, If you continue to implement these best practices, you're going to be gaining experience, right? You're going to be gaining confidence. And then when you have experience and confidence over time, as you grow your account, right, and you become more confident, you're going to want to invest and trade with more money. So then you'll feel more comfortable trading with, maybe $10,000. And those 1% days that were like, $10, those 1% days are now $100 days. And maybe from, once you have 2% days, then $200 days, and then 5% days, and then $500 days. Do you guys get the whole point? It's like when you first get started, and again, I'm going to use this example. I woke up today, right? And I'm just like, I want to become a professional basketball player. Okay, I'm not gonna just get scouted and start playing with who's a good basketball player. Dang, Kobe Bryant doesn't play anymore. What's his name? Stephen Curry, right? I'm really bad with sports, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? I'm not gonna just start playing basketball with the best of the best, right? I'm not gonna start making money playing basketball just because I wanted to start today. I have to practice, right? I have to gain experience. I have to gain confidence. I have to really dedicate a lot of time to this, kind of like niche, right? So with basketball, I'm gonna have to practice for time, for months, for years to even get to a point where I can potentially compete with those specific individuals. Trading is no different, right? There's a huge learning curve. Just because you have money and just because you have access to this, platform doesn't mean that, it's going to work or make sense right away, right? If Stephen Curry were to work with you for even a month, right? Are you going to be as good as him? No, but you're probably going to be better if you implement all the best practices and strategies that he shared with you. Same thing when it comes down to trading. The whole thing is not to want to be the best person, right? Or to be the best you can be in a 1 month or 6 month period. It's going to take time. Just like when it comes down to any profession that you do well in right now. Think about it. There was a learning curve. It took time for you to get there, to gain experience and to gain confidence. Trading is no different. So I think that, again, the very simple things when it comes down to waiting for overall confirmation, only trading patterns that are showing signs of growth, making sure that you're taking part of a position when the action is happening and not when you hope it's about to happen. I think that's the biggest difference. When we hope it bounces or when we hope that this is the support, again, hope can go a long way maybe when it comes down to other markets, not in the stock market. Hope isn't going to go a long way, and hope isn't what's going to really, grow your account. So for day trading, crossing EMA, I think that for like the 1 day, 1 minute chart, right? The shorter time frames, it's much easier for me to identify the direction. You guys know that I'm huge on direction and that I'm huge on confirmation. One of my two biggest focuses when it comes down to trading. Again, if I want to grow my account, I need to make sure that I that I invest in patterns that are showing signs of growth. So how, by being able to identify this thing pushing up, pulling back, pushing up, pulling back, pushing up, pulling back, I had to give this time for it to identify this little channel, right, of trading between the middle and bottom VWAP. And then it broke below this, right? And then it pushed up, got rejected, and then now there's this like downward staircase pattern. Again, this is now very easy for me to analyze because, everything has already played out, right? But if I was right here, and this is all I had to go off of, I would think that it was going to continue to uptrend, right? It's trading between the middle and top VWAP. It's not showing any signs of a change of direction. And then it goes, it pulls back. We're like, oh, what the heck? What's going on? Okay, I'm going to buy here, right? It makes sense. Let's just buy here. Well, no. Confirmation is key. And then guess what happens? It breaks below that support. It continues to sell off, continues to sell off, continues to sell off. I would have had to cut losses here, right? Because it broke its pattern. It's not a pullback anymore. It's a break a pattern, right? So manage risk, cut losses, and then guess what? It sells off, bounces here, pushes up, consolidates, gets rejected, right? Pushes up, and then now gets rejected by the middle VWAP. But again, I would not have known this if I didn't give it time for it to identify. So I think that's one of the biggest things also is how many people feel forced to take a position as soon as the market opens. One of the biggest reasons, right? One of the biggest reasons that I wake up during pre-market hours to look at futures, right? So if I'm trading like UWT or DWT, I can go off of, because futures trade for a much longer period of time, I can go off of the future because it's been trading for hours and identify the direction. And because of all that data, I'm able to analyze and come up with a better conclusion of the direction and the pattern, the way that it's moving. I don't really look at pre-market kind of, if I look at like UWT, right? I don't look at like pre-market patterns because they're not very clear, right? But if I look at /CL, this is much more of like a pattern that I can analyze. So I have much more to go off of, but not, these are for ETFs and for, overall futures. Stocks don't have this, right? I mean, you can look at, for like Facebook and those Fortune 500 companies, you can look at the /NQ and /ES, which is the overall, market futures, to have a better understanding of what direction maybe it might be headed. But other than that, the whole point that I look at futures is I don't trade futures, right? I don't trade those. It's to look at the patterns to identify the direction of what's trending up and what's trending down. So for all those that are so quick to try to pull the trigger on something that as soon as the market opens that you hope goes up or that you hope goes down, then guess what? What if you take a step back if that's not working for you and dedicate a little bit more time to allow this kind of, stock itself to identify its direction, right? How simple is that? So when it comes down to trading Tesla, instead of trading it right away, give it time for it to identify its direction. Is this thing going to be trending up or is this thing going to be trending down? Literally, patience can go such a long way in the market. All you have to do is give these specific things time. Especially if they offer a consistent pattern, you literally just need them to play out until you can identify a clear direction and a clear pattern. Because once you identify a clear direction and a clear pattern, right, it's very easy for me to analyze if something, a perfect example would be, I think it was SQs, right? SQs was continuously selling off. So let's go with the inverse, TQs, right? I would not have known this, right? So like, right? I would not have known that this would have like either been consistently trending between the middle and top view up if I didn't give it time. So it pushed up, became overextended, and then now it's kind of just consolidating here. So it's not really, I guess this isn't the best example because it's not really uptrending, but you guys get what I mean, right? With time, I'm able to identify that, okay, well, this thing is not selling off and it's actually SQs that is making lower lows and lower highs and overall just kind of consolidating. Do you guys get what I'm saying with that? As of right now, I think the biggest thing that, we could try to focus on is I think confirmation is huge, right? But to give whatever it is that you are planning to trade time for it to identify a clear direction and a clear pattern. Because when you can identify a clear pattern of low points and high points and a clear direction of what's trending up and what's trending down, what else do you need? You know the importance of confirmation, you know the importance of risk management. You want to make sure that the margin of profit is worth it. So there's all that core criteria that, always has to be met. But then now that you have the direction in your favor, and you understand the way that it's headed because you gave it time for it to identify itself, and you know the pattern because, again, you gave it time and now you can analyze those specific patterns, you have much more data to analyze to then determine where to buy and where to sell after confirmation. Does that make sense? But again, when you're put in the spot and the market opens and you're kind of like flipping a coin of what to buy because of what pulled back or what pushed up, do you really think that's an effective strategy? Are you really trading based off of patterns or based off fundamentals, or are you just trading based off of the market opened? And again, we all know that the first 30 minutes of when the market opens, that's one of the most like the highest demand period, right? So there could be I don't want to say manipulation, but there's a lot of hype. The market just opened and things are kind of all over the place. Once you give it time, it will identify its true direction. I think that's something that a lot of people will then begin to experience is test it out. See if, for this week, again, I'm not here to tell you what to trade. I'm not here to tell you where to buy or anything of that sort. But ask yourself, just be real with yourself. Ask yourself, if you were to, if you're someone that normally takes a position within the first 30 minutes to an hour of the market opening and normally doesn't do well because the direction changes, how many of you guys, the direction changes, right? Or, overall you just don't know what it is that you're getting yourself into. You're just kind of hoping for the best. Why not give it simply more time? So this could be a challenge for this week. I challenge you to be extra patient before you take your first position. If you've identified something during pre-market hours that has a clear direction, that has a clear pattern, and you think the margin of profit is worth it, you have proper risk management intact, great. All power to you. I say you do you, right? But if you're struggling to identify direction, if you're struggling to identify good entry points, good sell points, a good pattern, good direction, then guess what? What can we do? Give it more time. Take a step back, set your alerts, and let it play out. Once that direction is clear, once that pattern is clear and you can identify clear low points, clear high points, you wait for confirmation, the margin of profit is worth it, you get in, you get out when all the action is happening, then guess what? It's a much more relaxed type of approach. For all those that are part of Learn Plan Profit and that you guys, see me trade, why is it that I, do so well? It's not that like I do anything special. It's not that I'm any better than anybody else. Trust me, I make so many mistakes, especially as now I'm trading with a larger dollar amount. Trading with $100,000, that's so much money to me, right? And there's so much emotions that come, in effect when I'm trading with that much. And I'm still working with that and refining that. And that's the whole point of scaling up. But one of the things and the reason that I've been able to do so well, I had my most successful week ever trading the stock market last week. But it's because I was so obsessed about waiting when the action is happening. I would wait for something to become extremely overbought, or I'd wait for something to become extremely oversold. I'd wait for that consolidation. I'd wait for that confirmation, and then boom, I'll take action. Again, it's kind of like, I don't know what animal that might be, but like a cheetah, right? Looking at his prey. And he's not going to just like shoot for the shot real quick, right? He's going to wait until that opportunity presents itself for that perfect moment of when to take action, right? It's when it comes down to playing basketball, you don't see people normally, right, with a very consistent success rate from all the way from one side of the court, throws the basketball to the other side of the court and hope that they make that three-pointer or whatever, that full court shot. It just doesn't work like that. You want to make sure that you have a nice setup to take advantage of that opportunity and that you set yourself up for success. So I think that's something that's very important. What's going on, Dylan? What is going on, Tori? What's going on, Don? And what's going on, D. Lee? Jay Fizzle, we got Ganesh here. We got Ivan, Jay Fizzle. So I wanted to see, do you guys have specific questions about what I'm covering as of right now? Does it make sense? Does it make sense that maybe you should give the market a little bit more time for it to identify its direction? Do you agree that maybe sometimes you do get in a little bit too early and the direction or the pattern is not clear? This is the perfect time. Like, this is the whole point that you guys are part of the Perks channel. We need to be asking questions. We need to be engaging, because this is the whole point. It's for me to work with you on a closer basis, not over direct message. I mean, yeah, you can, but this is the best time to ask your questions and voice your opinions or your overall concerns about the market. So let me know. If you don't have any questions, then just let me know, and then we can kind of go from there. But I just wanted to kind of like emphasize the importance of confirmation, why patience can go such a long way, the different reversals and stuff like that. So Ricky, do you ever use the squeeze indicator or a momentum type of method? No, not really. And again, I'm not saying that you can't or that you shouldn't. You just know, I mean, based off of what you've seen me trade, I don't trade a lot of momentum or aggressive moving stocks. I like there to be a pattern. I like there to be a clear direction, and I don't mind waiting and giving it time. I'm not so quick to get in and get out. That's great, and that can be very attractive for a lot of people. I just don't like putting myself in that position where it's kind of a make it or break it, and I have to be super quick, with my entries. I just find it to be much more consistent with the way that I trade as of right now. So I'm a little confused and came in late. Can I watch it again? Of course, Dealey. All these are going to be available for you to rewatch in the community section, right, where you got access to this link. This video will become unlisted. Feel free to save the link, and you can rewatch it at your own convenience. So, and if you have any questions about maybe something that I covered, maybe something that you missed, feel free to answer it. So I was getting in early on DGAS, but started using the RSI and after watching one of your videos. Okay, Don, I can agree. I think that, I think the hardest part, I think a perfect example could be like /CL. Last week it became super overbought, super overextended. Or right now, a perfect example can be like DGAS. DGAS has been pushing up, and people are just waiting for DGAS to pull back and hoping to jump into UGAS, because now UGAS is super oversold. But guess what? This is where confirmation goes a long way. Right now, there's a strong uptrend pattern on DGAS. There's a strong downtrend pattern on UGAS. And patience goes a long way. So instead of trying to get into UGAS right now because you think it's oversold and it's bound to push up, why not just wait, kind of go with the flow with DGAS or whatever, however that's trading, as long as you identify a clear pattern and direction. And then once we have that confirmation on UGAS, then again, take action. It's not what we hope and how we hope something plays out. It's going with the flow and making sure that we're just micro focused on what's doing well, what's increasing in value, and what has confirmation. And when and if the direction changes, then guess what? Set your alerts and make sure that you just pivot then your attention to then what's uptrending. Again, it's not based off of your hope and your desires of how you're going to make money in this market, but it's actually staying true to what's important. And that's the patterns, that's the directions, that's the overall direction of what it is that you are trading. Crossing 180-day EMA is a confirmation for a swing trade. No, I wouldn't say so. So like let's go off of this, right? We could see that the EMA line or the SMA line can act as either support or resistance. I would like to say that the SMA line is obviously a slower moving indicator, so it's better to identify kind of like overall resistance levels or overall support levels. So when it breaks above and then it pulls back and then validates it, it then becomes a support. But as it pushes up and it's trading below it, then it most likely is a resistance. And you can see that multiple times, right? You can identify kind of the direction and the flow, and then once that direction changes, the EMA line right on the 180-day chart, it's very easy to identify. Okay, well, when something is being validated as a support, as we can see right here, and then it pushes up, becomes overextended enough that when it pulls back, it breaks below the EMA line, and then a pullback was, it made sense on why this pullback happened because it became so overextended. So now it makes sense on why it can pull back, potentially bounce here, and then once it breaks above it, right, then that can be potentially confirmation. Now we just need to wait for what happened here, right? Higher highs and higher lows. Give it time. Give it time for it to play out. Give it time for it to identify its support. Give it time for it to make higher highs and higher lows. And as long as the margin of profit is still worth it, even if you wait for this thing to break above 43 and able to sell at like 46, then guess what? Again, you're still doing and better off right now waiting for that confirmation and being more patient than you were when you were trying to predict these reversals. And I think that's what's important. It's like we become so obsessed about maximizing every percentage and about every dollar value that I would rather be so much more focused on getting in for a good deal, selling for when something is a little bit more on the overbought side, and that the overall direction is in my favor. That's what I think is most important long term. Because again, right now, all you have to be doing is proving to yourself that you can consistently grow your account. It's not about the money. And if you're trading to profit right now, I think that's a big mistake or mindset to have. You should be trading to learn, to build experience, and to build confidence, because with what you're trading with right now is not what you can be trading with 5 years down the road. And if you don't have that mentality or that overall just vision of being able to do this long term down the road, then I think that's going to be very just you're going to become very aware of that, because your best practices are not going to align with your overall goal. And I think that's the best thing. Make sure that your goal, your best practices and your habits today align and are congruent with your overall end game and overall end goal. So if you want to do this for the rest of your life, then make sure that you learn right now so you can implement later. Because again, you're not trading with what you can be trading with down the road. So you guys and D guys are going to have a split sometime this month. How would a price split affect the prices? I would say that it would probably be you guys that goes through a reverse stock split, and then D guys that goes through a split, because you guys is now a little bit undervalued. I wouldn't say that it would have a huge, they'll reduce the amount of shares available for either you guys or D guys. This is why I don't like to swing trade any of these like ETFs. I like to take advantage of the opportunities, on a day-by-day basis, and then simply walk away. Once the reverse stock split happens, we'll see how that affects, the overall kind of just, how that news just overall affects these specific ETFs and ETNs. And other than that, again, it's, when all this news is coming out, these are uncontrolled variables. We don't know exactly how they're going to react, and that's why I simply just stay away. I try to take advantage of opportunities within the day, because that is, I'm able to, manage my risk within that. But other than that, then I'll just simply stay away. So what is the perfect percentage to get into with volatility? I think that's a very, there is no perfect percentage. I think that's just going to be something that you're going to, understand with time, that the more that you practice and the more stocks that you focus on when it comes down to that, you will begin to pick on a series of you'll identify your little niche with volatility of what's a good mix for you. We're all wired in different ways, and we all manage risk in different ways. We all react to volatility in different ways. So I think my biggest suggestion or piece of advice for you would be to begin to practice to learn, not to profit, right? And try to find which percentage you find to be the most effective for you, because something that might be effective for me might not be effective for you. So with that being said, I think that you should just give it time. Just make sure that you see, well, if something is a little bit too volatile, I don't do very well with that because it moves too quick for me. And if something's too slow, then again, I don't do very well with that because I'm not patient enough. So then you have to find this kind of middle ground and this balance. So that's an area of opportunity, right? So how do you know what watch list to look for with 10,000 stocks? I think that's the biggest thing that, as of right now, if I were to ask you, if you were to guess, right, if there was a grand prize of $10,000, right, of what you think, what kind of specific either stocks or ETFs Ricky, would be trading this week, what would you say? Probably UGAS or DGAS or UWT and DWT. So I have a huge focus on ETFs. That's my niche. I'm very micro focused on that. I probably trade, 5 to 10 series of, ETFs. And that's my niche, right? As of right now, during the season and during the time and how things are going, that's really my main focus. Does that mean that everyone should do that? Heck no, right? We have a lot of people that are really just focused on gold-based ETFs. We have a lot of people that are just focused on, overall technology stocks. The whole thing about, yes, there's 10,000 stocks, just like when it comes down to buying and reselling cars. There's so many cars out there. How can you identify what cars are the best for you to buy and sell? Well, you practice all these different niches, all these different cars, and you see which cars do you understand the best, which ones in your area do you perform, sell the best as well, and which ones, are the most attractive for you with the opportunity cost, the margin of profit. But you will only identify that niche as you practice everything and then see which one you resonate the best with. So, and what I'm trying to answer with these specific questions is that I think people think that there's always just one way to be successful, right? In anything. When it comes down to real estate, I've been so blessed and so grateful that I've been able to do well with real estate, but it's only because I've been able to learn and cherry pick the series of best practices that those around me have shared with me. And my approach in real estate can be completely different from someone that I learned from, but it's just because I cherry picked the series of best practices that I liked from what they implemented, and I created my own style. And that would be my, in a sense, response to you, is don't be so micro-focused on exactly what I do for you to try to replicate. That's not how things work. It's you cherry pick the series of best practices that you find attractive, that you think that are of value, and then you begin to develop your own style. Yeah, and I can't say this enough. We're all wired in different ways, and it's extremely important for you, if you want to become self-sufficient, is not to obsess about exactly what I do, but to understand maybe why I do it. That's the difference. It's when you understand why someone does something, then you can develop and create your own way of doing that to have the same end goal. It's not doing exactly what one individual does to try to have the same results. I think that's the biggest difference. So, we're around 32 minutes, and that's really just it for this week. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this week's kind of breakdown, right, of talking about overall confirmation. I think we talked a lot about mindset best practices, and I'm really excited for this overall week. So for those that tuned in and for those that made it this far, I do want to let you know whenever you guys are ready, if you're not part of Learn Plan Profit already, I think it's the first or second link in the description. We have 10 open spots for the $40 off coupon. We'd love to have you for our live trading session as early as tomorrow. So feel free to take advantage of that opportunity if that's something that you guys see value in. And then again, you get access to the A to Z video lesson library, you get access to the live trading, and you get access to the private group chat where you can ask me any questions as time goes on. So really do appreciate you guys' time. We'll see you guys for our Sunday stock talk. All the links are down below to stay connected. And let me know in the comment section if you guys have any questions, and then I'll get back to you as soon as possible, or just direct message me on Discord. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to go grab some lunch. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it.